Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of my Cedar Point Recreation Park. Today we're going to be looking at a part of the park that you might not be very familiar with, and that is what is known as Forbidden Frontier on Adventure Island. Of course, this is referring to the large island in the middle of the park that Millennium Force does its turnarounds over. But this area was actually just recently renovated for this season, this year I believe, and given a whole bunch of new attractions and landscaping and buildings and things over here. So this is one of the parts of the park that I was actually completely unable to work on until I actually went there in person to do some first-hand research, because there is very little in the way of aerial footage and photos and things. And I really needed to get a good first-hand impression of what this area looked like and how it was laid out. It's a little bit hidden. The entrance to it is tucked away on Frontier Trail, but once you know where to go, there's a path that takes you over the bridge around the river and onto the island itself, where there's quite a few things to look at and do. Notably, a large area where you can walk around and look at some of these new buildings that are in place and talk to some of the employees that are going to be in character. And there's just fun scenery to look at. It's quite a pleasant little walk, actually. We spent about half an hour in here just walking around looking at things, and it's quite nice. However, to get everything looking good for my build here, we had to do some extensive reworking on both the shape of the terrain and a couple of our rides here. There wasn't quite enough room on the island for everything I wanted to put in here, and there was a little bit of extra space on the other side of the river. So I moved a little bit of the railroad and the raft ride and did some extensive reworking on the Millennium Force to make sure that there was enough room over here for everything I wanted to put in. Unfortunately, there still isn't quite enough room for the pathway and playground area at the back of the island, but I think there's definitely enough room to put down enough foliage and a couple display buildings and things to give the impression of the stuff that's back here, and I think it worked out all right. So yeah, like I said, what we have here, a lot of pathways that go around a small artificial body of water. This used to be where there was a splash boats ride here a few years ago, got torn out recently, but they kept in a lot of the structure, which is why there's a little body of water here and some rock work left over from the old ride. After the guests walk past that, you're treated to just a kind of a little trip around the island through the trees with some various little buildings for sightseeing. And there's also a large playground in the middle of the island called High Ground. Like I said, there wasn't quite enough room in here to put the playground in. There's also a building for restrooms and a quite large building actually with counter service food. Getting that to all fit in here was quite cramped. But once we threw in a bunch of trees and things around here, it kind of covered up a lot of the path and kind of hid the fact that everything is really jammed in here. And it wound up looking decent, I guess, if you don't look at it too closely. But like I keep saying, adding in just a bunch of foliage is always going to help make things look better, even if there's not a whole lot else going on. You might get the impression from watching this build that Millennium Force comes a little bit too close to the past, but that is in fact how it is in real life. One of my favorite parts about walking through here was seeing how close you get to the Millennium Force track and watching those trains zoom past. It's pretty amazing, and I quite enjoyed it. So our peeps are going to get a little bit of excitement from that here as well. But yeah, aside from that, not a whole lot else to talk about in this area. Just making some buildings and bridges. Again, with some more of that lovely brown post fences and brown roofs, and everything is very brown. But I guess that's Frontier Town for you. But anyway, that's going to do it for today. A little bit of a shorter episode, but I felt like this was nice and contained for one section of the park here, and it kind of made sense to leave it here. Nice to get this little area done. I think it looks quite nice here in the middle of the park too. Probably have to come back here for a little bit more detailing, especially on the near side of the river, to get some more foliage in here around the entrance to this section, but we'll worry about that later. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this episode, and as always, if you've got any comments, questions, or suggestions, please let me know. Thanks for watching.